last point you made. If an artist paints in the woods and nobody else is around, is it still art?
No, because it's a communicative function. You know, it's like the tree. You know, if nobody hears it, so what? It is, in my mind, art is a public relation, not in the sense of like twisting reality to, you know, show a better face, but in that it's literally for the public, and it needs the, you know, the artist goes halfway and the viewer goes the other half to bring their personal subjectivities to bear on the artwork to make meaning happen. As many viewers as there are of any given artwork, that's the number of meanings there are for the artwork, according to me. Yes, Kate.
I was in Pittsburgh recently, and I was at the Andy Warhol Museum, and you are one of the little features on the Andy Warhol TV. What's the backstory?
My wife went to college with Vincent Fremont's wife, Shelley Fremont. Vincent Fremont was kind of like the number 3 guy in the Warhol organization until the number 1 guy and the number 2 guy died. But Vincent's like sort of thing within the Warhol organization was Andy Warhol TV. And there was on MTV, I don't know, maybe a handful of episodes, Andy Warhol's 15 minutes, and the joke was the program was a half an hour. It wasn't 15 minutes. And so I was pleased to be included. I did get to shake Andy's hand and tell him I thought he was the greatest thing since Jackson Pollock, and he looked at me like I was a man from outer space. And I did visit his studio where he was working with Basquiat collaboratively. And, you know, I mean, my pilgrimages to de Kooning's studio, Lichtenstein's studio, and a whole lot of other studios is really crucial to me. You know, that's my education. You know, like, okay, so I'm a dropout. I would drop out and I would drop in. And I've always been interested in knowledge. I don't really care about credentials. You know, in my field, credentials are a safety net that send you to school. I mean, when I say send you to school, I mean as a teacher. You know, it's most artists rely on teaching to pay their bills. And you know, that's great for them. And I've done it when I, you know, was invited. But I don't have those credentials. And so what's that got to do with Andy Warhol? Well, I think Warhol had a BFA from Carnegie Mellon, but yes, Becca.
So I have a partner who is a painter, and he paints at the kitchen table, and
you all suffer.
Pretty content with that. He doesn't mingle much with other artists, and I'm curious about how other contemporary, current artists influence you, and in particular the Roycroft artists being in this community.
Well, other artists influence me hugely. Because from my point of view, it is to understand the context that you're working within. For me, the context is international, and what I take from Roycroft is the tradition of progressivism, which is kind of looking in both directions. I mean, a tradition, okay, typically looks backward. Progress typically looks forward. So I get a kick out of this, you know, enigmatic situation of looking back and forward. The Western New York community is full of really interesting artists. I enjoy going to their studios, and you know, it's a wonderful thing for me here in that regard. But you know, if you don't engage the artistic community, it's like what George was saying about speaking in a void. You know, it's for me, establishing, I mean, my development has a lot to do with hall walls. And hall walls was an opportunity to make an institution not inside of an institution. I mean, Larry Griffiths' operation was, he had a not-for-profit that rented out space to artists, and I was sort of like, I think I was the first person that slept in the building. And I traded my assistants with his sculpture for studio space. And I think he began or he took possession of that property in 1969. I came into the picture in like 70 or 71. And following me, well, actually, Dwayne Hatchett and Don Robertson already had studios there, they being head of painting and head of sculpture at UB. And after I got there, some of their students came in and took studio spaces, and it was in conversation with those artists in the context of the art media, art forum, Art in America. I would go to New York, you know, once a month or every 2 months to see the shows in New York, to correlate the shows in New York with the reviews and art forum and Art in America. And, you know, there's some bouncing off of the Albright, some bouncing off of galleries in Toronto, but yeah, you can't make art not be within a context of other people. It's to what extent do you, you know, cultivate that awareness? You know, everybody's got a sense of what they saw in the Bugs Bunny cartoons with Whistler's mother or what have you. And, you know, so you're stuck with, you already know stuff about art, but you can know a lot more. I can know a lot more. Any art historian can know a lot more. There's no, you know, no limit to how much more you can know about any field, I expect. So, you know, engage. You know, I mean, I've turned into a hermit, but I'm able to engage by going to New York and going to the shows, by you know, online. You can see, you know, all the shows in New York, all the shows around the world. It's like, you know, if you feel like sticking your nose into your computer and suffering in that particular way. Yeah, Judy.
Charlie, from what you said at the beginning of your lecture about your own personality, and then about the various influences that you felt both in people and in reading, is it possible you could be anything other than such a wholly committed person to your art?
When I was
Would you have gone in a...
When I was a teenager, I thought I was going to be an illustrator. And when I went to Pratt, I thought, advertising, being a madman, something like that. Try to make a lot of money, get the Ferrari and the beautiful wife. And then I had this, you know, sort of revelatory moment. Sort of had to do with hippies and tune in, turn on, and drop out. But that was, in a way, that was maybe just a parallel thing that was going on as I was going through my mind. This idea of realizing that artists write their own job descriptions. And, you know, if you're an art director, you're dealing with a client, you're dealing with, you know, the talent, da-da-da-da. If you're an artist, you're dealing with your brain and that context of art history. So, I mean, what could I have been? You know, I did get stuff from my parents, you know, like, you know, heart and, you know, backbone maybe, and perseverance, and I did break up with this girlfriend, and I thought it's going to go one way, and when it didn't go that way, I thought, what the heck? That's the word, heck. What the heck? I'll be an artist. I'll devote my life to art. And I did. And it's like I stuck with it. And I've suffered for it. um, I've heard my spouse say, "Why are you doing this?" And, other people look askance. And c'est la vie, I got X.
Not that many, I think.
Well, what part of my revelation as a 20-year-old was like, I don't know whether I'm going to die in 10 minutes or 70 years. And what can I get done between where I am now and wherever that dead point is? And it sort of compelled my desire to throw as much energy and sincerity and all that stuff together to do what I've been doing. And it worked. I'm alive. Tomorrow, I don't know.
How good.
Yes.
What has been the most surprising revelation that you've heard from the regular people just who are not artists, but who have worked with you collaboratively on these projects that you've done as community projects?
Well, I'd say it was the actual images that people made in the studio. When people participate in the painting project, and they, I get a big kick out of this. What do I call it? Encounter experience. It's not about skill. It's not about instruction. It's about like the participants' anxiety in dealing with the blank, the blankness. I mean, it's not always blank. A lot of people are dealing with somebody else's work and adding to it. Nonetheless, there's like, and I don't know if it's clear until you do the workshop that what you do is, that's it. That's like, it's on the record. That's become part of history. Turning the workshop into history by way of the books is, it's on your permanent record. And so that's the thing. I mean, in terms of, like words or ideas, nothing comes to mind that I can really, give to you here and now. But I for me, it's kind of thrilling. I mean, I kind of know what I'm going to do. I mean, there's a similarity piece to piece to piece, and when other people get involved, it breaks it up, and I'm surprised, and it makes the magic of the workshop.
You said art is understood through mise en scène. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? What does that mean?
Yeah, well, the French phrase mise en scène, mise en scène. Yeah, I've listened to it 10 billion times in the pronunciation thing online, so I could deal with this. But the elements of a theatrical production. Is it's society. We live in a theatrical situation. I suppose when we're alone and by ourselves, it's not so theatrical. But a painting becomes a piece of history. The Mona Lisa. I don't think it's such a great painting, but it's a big deal because it was stolen in 1911 or something, and it took on a character, within the greater theatrical situation of life, and so the artist has the artist's works, but accompanying that is the artist's biography. Was the artist a jerk? I could have used a different word, but I'm trying to keep it clean. Could have been a jerk, could have been a saint. Those things add up. I mean, I think Gauguin's color is incredible. I love his paintings. I think the guy was a miserable fill in the blank. And so on. And so, within the theater of society, there are these elements. I mean, if I was a fiddler, you know, it would be because of my music, but I'm not a fiddler, so it's because of my paintings. Is that, I mean, do you want more?
That's good, thank you. I could go on all day asking questions about that.
Phil?
Over the course of your career painting, how has the relationship between art and commerce changed, or art in the marketplace?
It's when I came in, there was like Leo Castelli was the biggest dealer, and like Warhol and Lichtenstein and Frank Stella, they were the stars, and but they are such small beans. Well, no, I can't exactly say that. Though the values, the prices of those artists that I mentioned has risen exponentially. But the scale and scope of the art market was like very primitive in the 1970s compared to right now. In the last 20 years, the mega dealers have emerged. Larry Gagosian apparently sells $1 billion worth of art from his 13 galleries located around the world. The billionaires seem to view contemporary art as an asset class to be bid up. I mean, I know of a family that has like 700 Warhols, and then another collector who has an equal number of Warhols. And when the Warhols come up at auction, they bid up the prices because they know that the value of the one piece that's sold is times the number of the paintings that they have in their offshore, duty-free, hidden storage places. I mean, it's creepy. And if I was part of that context, I wouldn't care because I'd be rich. But I'm not. And so I look at what can I do? And I think that community art workshops, something that I was involved in when I was 2, 3, 4 years old. There was a church behind my parents' house. We'd go there for craft class after school, that was even when I was preschool. And that kind of activity, I think, is it's always going to be there. You know, like 50,000 years. Where is it? The Artful Mind. You know, this context of art history's long. You know, it's kind of like human history is long, and there's always going to be an impulse to make things and to, appreciate beauty, etc. How it gets perverted at various points. You look at Rubens' paintings of Marie de Medici, and you think, she was a bad woman. She killed her husband. She wreaked havoc on the world. But the paintings are great. So, art can be perverted, as it were. But I think that there's always going to be sort of a core to the impulse and to the reception of art that's pretty pure.
Charlie?
Yeah.
I don't know how I can
Ron?
articulate this. Let me see. Thinking of the creative process, whether it's art or music or writing or whatever, I read once that, for example, writing is easy. You sit at a desk and open a vein. So I think of the creative process as often being painful. And writers have writer's block. Maybe painters have creative block. Have you encountered that, and how did you overcome that? Or do you still have it?
Well, for me, if I have materials and space to use them, space and time, I haven't reached a creative block. I've reached a block in terms of, time, space, and materials. I mean, according to me, if I had 10,000 square feet and unlimited paint and surface to paint on, I would go crazy. I would just be so productive. I don't have those circumstances. I sort of eke my way along in terms of material circumstances, feeling lucky that I'm able to do that eking, and you know, I mean, I'd love to have more, you know, conducive circumstances, but I got what I got, and I get done what I've gotten done, and that's the way it is for me.
You've always had that drive. You've never been overcome by fear in the creative process.
I find that if I put a color down and another color next to it, that I'm like,
Good to go.
got the pedal to the metal.
Lucky you.
Well, yeah, I do feel lucky like that, but you know, I count my lucky stars. What can I say? If you've had enough, and if you haven't been upstairs to my library in the tower here, which is a really amazing circumstance that the Roycroft has, you know, kind of opened up to me for how long, I don't know. Downstairs I rent, upstairs is kind of a gift, so I try to be in the library here, or present on the campus noon to 5 daily, 7 days a week. When I'm not here, it's because I'm in New York with my family. And, you know, so I'm a troll here. So, you know, I welcome all visitors. If you haven't participated in the workshop downstairs, I'd love to have you. Bring your friends, bring your relatives. Bring your enemies, and you can work it out.
Can we bring box wine?
Yeah, you can, but
It might help.
well, that was part of my solution in the past, but I've sort of I've been told that I've had enough. So, boo-hoo. Anyway, but you can bring it for yourself.
Oh,
sure.
thank you.
Yeah. George.
Is everybody aware of where the reception now is?
The reception now is across the street in the salon at the Roycroft, and I did see Mark, the guy in charge of that, lurking in the wing there. It's sort of officially at 4:30, and I should go run over there and see if it's okay if people come over earlier.
I'm going to head over to the
Well-
gallery on Elm Street. We have
Stuff
a
going on.
fantastic show with Charlie's paintings over there. If anybody would like to come over, please feel free to stay and ask as many questions as you want. But I'll be there for about an hour if anybody wants to.
Thanks, Will. And that's like 3 or 4 blocks east of here, and take a right on Elm Street.
Yes, yes.
And but wine and water and hors d'oeuvres across the street. But I better go make sure that he's
Thank you, Charlie.
comfy with that. The books I referenced are here if anybody wants to poke through them. And like I said, I'm going to run across the street and then